Hey guys, happy Wednesday. So excited that you're all here. April Fools. No, I'm not. I'm not joking. I am excited that we are back together for another day of math. So please, please, please get ready. That means get your packet ready. Make sure you watch the YouTube video or you're watching it now. Make sure you have something to write with. And make sure you bring a smile to your face, your best energy to move forward, to understand as we continue working with volume. And now we're going back to area, but we're doing tiling. I know a lot of things are being thrown your way, but let me just let you know, you guys are killing it. Jaden, Paola, Angela, Michaela, who else? Nadi, Arabelle, Janelise, all of you guys, you're just killing it. You are like thrive pointing it up every day. Keep pushing yourselves, keep showing up, not just in person, but just in your work. And I look forward to seeing you during office hours. Okay, so we're going to continue with today's lesson, 5.11. Let's go. Okay, let's get started with our fluency page. The two main important things to remember for our fluency is simple multiplication and our place value chart. So let's get started with number one. 3 times 2. 3 times 2. I know, simple. 3 times 2 is 6. But I'm going to break this down so we understand how we're going to answer all of the other questions. 3, the number 3 is in our what place in our place value chart? Very good. It's in our ones place, as well as the 2 is in our ones place, which means our answer is going to be in our ones place. Okay, simple enough. Let's move on to number 2, where it says 3 times 2/10. Let's get used to using the correct names of our numbers, not 0.2, but we look at the place value of where the 2 is. The 2 is in the tenths place, so we call it 2/10. The 3 is in our ones place. I'm going to put a 1 times, and the 2 is in the tenths place, which means our answer will be in the tenths place. Our tenths place. So 3 times 2 is 6, but our answer is going to be in the tenths place, so it's 6/10. 6/10. Let's move on to number 3. To number 3. We have 3 times, not 0.02, but 2/100ths. So let's continue with the same process. Our 3 is in the ones place, times our 2 is in the hundredths place, which means our answer is going to be in what place value? Our answer will be in the, very good, 1 times 100 is in our hundredths place value. So 3 times 2 is 6, and the answer is in the hundredths place value, so our answer is 6/100ths. 0.06 is 6/100ths. Okay, now let's practice on your own. Practice on your own, starting with number 4. 3 times 3, simple enough, it is 9. But let's also remember that the 3 is in the ones place, and the other 3 is in the ones place, which means our answer will be in the ones place, which is 9. For number 5, 3 is in the one place, and then you have 3/10, which is in the tenths place. So our answer will be in what part of the place value chart? 1 times 10 is, very good, it's going to be in the tenths place. 3 times 3 is 9, 9/10. How do we write 9/10? In our place value chart, we have our ones, we have our tenths, we have our hundredths, and our thousandths. So 1 times 10 is our tenths place. So our 9 would go there. And we don't leave ones blank. You can always put a 0. Very good. Now let's look at number 6. 3 times this 3 is in what place value? Very good, in the hundredths. So we know 3 times 3 is 9. Our 9 is going to go in the hundredths place. We don't leave a place value blank. So what number are we going to put in the tenths place? Very good. We are going to put a 0. Don't forget our decimal point. That's very important. 9 hundredths. Now I want you to continue on your own. You're doing a great job. Take a deep breath in. Go. Finish the page now. Excellent job completing your fluency page. Now I want you to set a timer. Take 2 minutes. Go as far as you can. Challenge yourself in this Thrive Point Challenge. So when I say pause, pause the video and do your Thrive Point Challenge. Pause. Excellent job completing your Thrive Point Challenge. Now let's take a look at the application problem. It says Mrs. Golden wants to cover her 6.5 foot by 4 foot bulletin board with silver paper that comes in 1 foot squares. How many squares does Mrs. Golden need to cover her bulletin board? Will there be any fractional pieces of silver paper left over? Explain why or why not. Draw a sketch to show your thinking. Beautiful question. This is a great review on yesterday's lesson when we learned about tiling, which is finding the area of the individual tiles inside a diagram, adding those up together, and that gives us the total area. Okay, so it's 6.5. Now the first thing I'm going to do with 6.5 is I'm going to change 6.5 to 6.5 as a fraction, only because I remember it that way from yesterday's lesson. So let's start with our sketch. If I have 6.5, again, I like to keep my fractional pieces on the bottom. That's going to be my 6.5. And then my 4 by 4 feet. That's going to be my 4. Now it's divided into 1 foot squares. So if the length 6.5, right? So 6 would be 5 lines. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then we'll leave this little piece as my half. So I know that this is 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, and 1 half. And then we have by 4. 4 equal parts, which means 3 lines. 1, 2, 3. Again, disclosure, not drawn to scale. Great. So now we're going to put each area inside each tile. So this is 1, 1, 1, and 1. So for this box, 1 times 1 is 1 unit squared. It is extremely important to remember our unit squared. We can't forget to put our units, because this one inside the box is not the same as the ones outside the box. 1 times 1 is 1 unit squared. I'm going to just continue putting ones because we are going to add. 1, 1, 1, 1. You should be following along, matching my work. All of these are ones until we get to the 1 half column. So I have 1 times 1 half. So each of these will be 1 half, 1 half, 1 half, and 1 half. Let us count. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, So I have 24 there. And then we know that 2 halves make a whole. 2 halves make a whole. So again, we were at 24, 25, 26 units squared. So how many squares does Mrs. Golden need to cover her bulletin board? How many squares is she going to need? So our answer will be in how many squares? 26 squares. Then next question is, will there be any fractional pieces of silver paper left over? Explain why or why not. Now that is a question I want to hear discussed during office hours. Ready? Let's move on. Moving on to the concept development, it says, draw the rectangle and your tiling. Write the dimensions and the units you counted in the blanks. Then use multiplication to confirm the area. Show your work. First, I want to look at what I just circled or boxed in red. It says rectangle A is 4.5 units long. Let's find that now on the given diagram. 4.5 units long. I'm going to keep that in red. This top line is 4.5 units long. They broke it down with the whole number and the fraction, 4.5. Those two are what make the length. Now, it says 2.5 units wide. That's over here with the blue line, 2.5 units wide. They broke down the whole number and the fraction, 2.5, and that's where we get units wide. Now we remember the formula for area is equal to the length times the width. So 4.5 times 2.5 is equal to 11.25. First, let's go through that multiplication. We're doing area, which is length times width. So before we see, because they do it for us over here, but we didn't learn it that way, which is fine. Remember, there's always more than one way to do something. One way that we've learned that I feel we're more comfortable doing is by turning the mixed numbers into improper fractions and then multiplying from there. So let's do that first. Let's turn 4.5 and 2.5 into improper fractions. 4.5. So what do we do first? We multiply 4 times 2, which is 8, and then do 8 plus 1, which is 9, and you keep the same denominator, 9 halves. For 2.5, you multiply 2 times 2, which is 4, add the 1, which is 5, and that gives us 5 halves. So we are multiplying 9 halves times 5 halves. And in multiplication, you just go straight across. 9 times 5 is 45. 2 times 2 is 4. So we have 45 fourths. Now to make that into a mixed number, we divide by 45. We divide 45 divided by 4. How many times does 4 go into 4? 1 time. Subtract the 4. It's equal to 0. Then you bring down the 5. Remember, if you feel that I'm going a little too fast, you can always push pause, rewind, and do it again. How many times does 4 go into 5? 1 time. Very good. 1 times 4 is 4. So you subtract the 4, and you're left with a remainder of 1. And you keep the same denominator, 1/4. Excellent job. You see how by multiplying, we get that answer, which means 1, we're correct, and they're correct. But now I want to show you what are they expecting us to do besides, remember, multiplying fractions. In tiling, we're finding the area of each individual box, and then you're adding each individual area. Let's look at the diagram that I just pointed out with the green arrow. So the first box, it says that the area is 8 units squared. How did they get 8 units squared? Length times width. The length here, right, that I'm going over with my green line is 4 units times 2 units. 4 times 2 is 8 units squared. 4 units times 1/2 unit gives us 2 units squared. 1/2 unit times 2 units, 1/2 unit times 2 units, 2 units, gives us 1 unit squared. And last but not least, 1/2 unit times 1/2 unit. Hold on a second. Mr. Bautista, how are you multiplying 1/2 times 1/2 for that little box? Because its length, which is just this little section here that I'm going over with my green, that comes from this number, 1/2 unit. That is the length. And the width is just this section right here, which I'm getting from where I have my new green arrow, 1/2 unit. 1/2 times 1/2 gives me 1/4 or 1/4 unit squared. Next step is we add. 8 plus 2 is 10. No, let me do that in a different color. 8 plus 2 is 10. 10 plus 1 is 11. 11 plus 1/4 is 11 and 1/4 units squared. So what I want you to do is, before going on, if you still feel that you don't get it, push pause, rewind, watch it as many times as you need, and when you're ready to do rectangle B on your own. Let's go and look at it real quick. It says rectangle B is 1/3 units by 3 3/4. 1 3/4 units by 3 3/4 units. Let us write those units in. Match my work. Go. 1 3/4 units by 3 3/4 units. So the first thing you're going to do is you're going to multiply 1 3/4 times 3 3/4. Let's change those to improper fractions together. So 1 3/4, right? First 1 times 4 is 4. Add that to 3, 7 over 4. That's 7. Hold on, let me make that look better. That is 7/4. Then you have 3 3/4. 3 times 4 is 12 plus 3. 12 plus 3 is 15/4. So we're multiplying 7/4 times 15/4. Press pause, multiply your improper fractions, and then create the mixed number. Press pause, go. Excellent job. Welcome back. Now we are going to do our tiling. We're going to make a diagram, and we're going to find the area of each of our tiles and see by if adding them up together, do we get the same answer. So let's draw our diagram together. Please have your pencil ready and your paper ready and match my work. So if it's going to be 1 3/4 long, right, that's this way. Let me bring that down a little bit because my width is going to be longer. If it's going to be 1 3/4 long and then 3 3/4 wide, okay, here is my 1, and here's my 3/4. Here is my 3/4 and 3. So now we're going to find the individual areas for each of those individual tiles. So for our gray tile, length times width. Our length is 1 times, our width is 3. 1 times 3 is 3 units cubed. Can't forget the units cubed. For our red box, our length is 1 and our width is 3/4. 1 times 3/4, 1 times anything is itself, so this will be 3/4 units cubed. Oh, I'm sorry, units squared. April Fools, units squared. For our blue box, our length is 3/4 and our width is 3/4. So that's going to be 3/4 times 3/4, which gives us, right? Very good. You just multiply straight across, 9/16. So 9/16 units squared. I'm going to write it out here. This is 9/16 units squared. And for our green box, our length is 3/4 and our width is 3. When you multiply those across, it becomes 9/4. This is 9/4 units squared. So whatever answer you got multiplied, is it the same by adding the total of the areas in the entire diagram? So I'm going to pull out those individual areas. So I have 3 plus 3/4 plus 9/16 plus 9/4. Now remember, when adding fractions, you have to have a common denominator. So before I tell you to go and complete this silent solo, let me give you a quick hint. These 4s are going to change to 16. So you're changing our boxed fractions to equivalent fractions with the common denominator of 16. Push pause when I say go and complete adding all of those individual areas and see if it matches when you multiplied your length times your width. Look forward to hearing your answers during office hours. Silent solo, go. Amazing job. Send yourself some shine. Take a deep breath in and out. Now on your own, I want you to complete numbers 3, 4, and 5 on your own. Follow the same process. You got this. Do not rush and do not give up. So press pause when I say go and do up to number 5. Silent solo. Ready? Go. Whew, you're doing a great job. That's a lot of work. And let's say if you didn't complete every one of those questions because you got stuck. That's okay. Those are the questions that you bring to office hours. Okay, remember, we're not expecting perfect answers. We're looking for your best work. Okay, now let's look at number 6 together. It says a square has a perimeter of 51 inches. What is the area of the square? That is a great question. One thing we know about squares is all the sides are the same. Very good. And how many sides are there in a square? Clap, clap, show. I forgot. I can't see you. You can't see me right now because this is a video. 4 sides. So if all the sides are equal and the perimeter is 51 inches, which means if you add all the sides together, it becomes 51 inches, how do I find out the length of each side of the square? Very good. I divide 51 by 4. And then whatever answer you get here, I'm just going to write answer because you're going to do this on your own. Whatever answer you get there, that's going to be for each side. So if area is equal to length times width, that means you are going to just take one length and one width and multiply them together, and that will give you your area. So area is equal to star times star with the squiggly lines underneath. Okay, awesome job. So push pause, do this on your own. Looking forward to seeing a great answer. Go.